play guess who thought of the topic today. I didn't tell you this yet, by the way.
Who?
Edleen did.
Oh, yay. Cool.
I was
Great
coming up
topic,
with a
Edleen.
few ideas for the Friday debrief, and sometimes I can be a little bit negative when we're, talking about our content.
Yeah.
Since, sometimes it's very easy to feel that way with the fitness industry and the misinformation we see all the time that we talked about just recently. So I think I said something like red flags or whatever. It was more of like a negative thing. She's like, how about you present it like reputable fitness sources and how to find them? Like, oh, that seems a little
Hell
bit more
yes.
positive for the day.
I
You know what I
love
mean?
it. Edleen, sincerely, thank you. I read it and I was like, Jake, nice. So instead, I will say, well, no, still Jake, nice, but especially Edleen, nice. Well played. Thank you. I
No,
love this topic
it
today.
was definitely all her. Now I will see if she listens to this episode. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say we talked about her. So I'll know when this comes out on Friday if she actually listened or not. But yeah, I just thought that was a great idea, especially with, I don't know what it's been the last couple of weeks with the fitness industry as a whole, just the craziness we've talked about, the silliness. And for some reason, I'm getting more and more ads on Instagram, mainly seeing dudes sitting there flexing their abs and, wanting people to go to their page. And the narcissism just seems like it's at an all-time high in the fitness industry, if that's even possible. So, what a great day to be a little bit more positive, right?
Yeah, we'll flip it around. And I think that's a good idea, not only for us to be doing for the sake of doing, but doing for the sake of example, because I think that that's a lot of what we do when we're kind of stuff we're talking about. It's like, it's easy to be negative. It's easy to be subtractive. Instead, let's add, let's create, let's grow. And so this is a great way for us to kind of step in that right direction of saying, instead of saying, because you guys all know, you guys, not only if you're here because you already know, but we talk about all the time all of the things that are, difficult and challenging and downright wrong about the fitness industry. So, let's raise up what's really good about it.
Did you listen to the episode when I had Andrew Coates on? It was right before you started with Mission Driven Mate.
I did, but I need to go back because I listened to like 5 of them in like one day. So they all kind of blend, except for Hannah Huberman. She really stands out because of my psychology background and her mindset. I forget exactly the phrasing of it, but it was like mindset wellness coaching.
I can't remember the title of the episode, but she's a mental performance coordinator on the Rangers now. She was on, what baseball team was she on before that? Coaching. Can't remember, but she just moved over to the Rangers though. So
I thought she said Rangers on the podcast, so
yeah. So I guess at that time, so when she came onto the podcast, she was still coaching on the other baseball team. I don't know why it's like slipping my mind right now. She was still technically, or she hadn't announced that she left the other team. To everyone else, that's what it was. And she had just accepted a position with the Texas Rangers. But I can't remember what the name of the episode was, though.
It was something about mental performance in the title. It was a good, very concise title. And that, I would say, while I have other maybe favorite moments from before me joining, that was definitely my favorite topic and guest if I had to pick one.
Oh, she was for sure one of my favorites too. And in the future, I want to get more mental performance coordinators on, because I think it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. I do like to talk about mindset and personal development. Like, it all is in the same realm of fitness. And there's a really awesome mental performance coordinator on, oh my gosh, of course, it's slipping my mind again. I feel like it's the Marlins. His name's Justin something. He has great content. I've messaged him a little bit on Instagram, so we should definitely get more of those on the show in the future. You know what I mean?
That'd be tight.
But regarding Andrew Coates, this is what I almost forgot to tell you. So he put it very nicely. So I was talking to him, and about my frustration with the industry sometimes, and it just seems like there's more charlatans than good people out there. And then he reminded me there's still a ton of good people, still a lot of people putting out great work that are honest and have integrity and all that. So he reminded me of that, and it is true. But it's very easy to see. Like, I don't know what the number is. Say it's the 30% that, you know, present this BS, it's easy to just look at those people and not, you know, all the good people putting out good stuff.
Yeah, well, the bullshitters are the loudest, right? So it's like the bad kid in class that like gets all the attention from the teachers. Like, no, there's a lot of really good kids in the class, but you know, they're not, they're not, taking their. Sorry, I almost actually did a free on accident, but they're not taking their shirts off and taking out Instagram pictures with their abs. They have maybe a handful of not very well taken pictures on Facebook. It's like a super awkward professional picture of them, and that's the person who, like, 9 times out of 10, I feel like is actually going to be the trainer, because they're working based on generally speaking word of mouth referral, or whatever other referral, but referral is just such a higher quality way of like connecting, you know what I mean, than the internet.
Have you, I'm not going to comment on my thoughts on it, maybe just too long, but have you seen the new social media sensation Liver King? Have you seen that guy come up yet?
No, but I'm scared and excited to hear what it is.
So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to tell you my opinion at all. I'm just going to leave you with this. He speaks when you refer to yourself, like, is that in the third person or first person?
Third.
In the what?
Third person,
okay.
yeah.
So he refers to himself in the third person whenever he posts like videos or just any regular posts. And then when I first saw this guy, he popped up, I think, on my feed. He had maybe 500,000 or 600,000 followers, so still a massive account. And then I checked like a month later, and he was at 1 million. So there's normally a couple reasons why that happens. So, anyways, I'm not going to say anything else besides that. And he eats a lot of animal liver. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. And then we're going to have to talk about it on one of the next episodes. Okay, AJ, you too, you're going to have to look up Liver King. And I want to see your guys' thoughts. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm not saying anything positive. I want to hear your thoughts without any of my bias or my opinions in there. And what we'll have to do, let's do this on our episode tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you guys you'll have to start with that and just tell me what you think. I don't want to influence you one way or the other. Is that fair?
That's fair. Although I have to ask, for the sake of our viewers and for my own curiosity, is it basically kind of like the guy who said to everybody that we can survive on just bacon? Okay, it's the same thing, right? It's the same.
No,
it's like the same guy.
I don't think he has said that, not to my knowledge. So.
Okay, but just to be clear, listeners, this is the guy, and I don't remember his name. He was in great shape. He was cut. He always looked really good, and he died of cardiac arrest. So I mean, this is it's like, anyway. Just that's a little context about the other guy, not this guy.
Liver King. He is. I mean, I don't know actually how tall he is. He looks like he's about 5'10", maybe 270 pounds, and no body fat on him. He's absolutely jacked. So that's the one other thing that I'll leave you with.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't tell you anything else. So, tomorrow we'll have to bring this up.
Anabolic liver guy?
I don't know. I'm not saying a word. I'm not saying anything. Before I say anything, why don't we get into our topic today? For our fitness focus section, we'll get right into it. And this is how to find reputable fitness sources. So we're going to give you 10 or 11 points here. And like I said, they're going to be on more of the positive side today instead of the red flag type of side. Or at least we're going to try to keep it that way. Also, the episode will probably be a little bit shorter today. That is our goal. We do like to give you guys a diverse amount of times as far as the duration of the episode. Lately, our Friday debriefs, I think, have been a little bit longer than normal, but we will try to get through these points relatively quickly, and we hope you find them valuable. So we'll start with number 1, is they present information without exaggeration. So, okay, I'm not going to try to go too far down the road of negative, but this is just an example on the other side. So we've talked about this probably on episode 70, maybe the later 70 episodes. So I don't know if you remember, I told you I was on Thumbtack, that app, one day. I don't remember specifically why I was on it, but some trainer said, he had 25 years of experience, and his guarantee is you will gain up to 30 pounds of muscle in your first month. So that right off the bat to me seems, even if I had no understanding or background in fitness, if someone is telling me that they're going to do that for you in 4 weeks time, that to me seems a bit like an exaggeration. So for
Yeah.
me, my propellers would start spinning. They're telling me, okay, I don't think this is actually real. And I'm going to actually tie this into point number 2 because they're so similar. And that is, nothing seems too good to be true. So same example there. When you see that, it feels good. You think, oh, I'm going to sign up with this person and I'm going to gain 30 pounds of muscle in 1 month without steroids, which, for most of us, we probably agree 30 pounds of muscle in 1 month is not really a possible thing. So we'll just leave it at that. And another claim that I see all the time by a certain person is, he doesn't necessarily say I'm going to, get you to gain 30 pounds of muscle in a month, but the get ripped fast.
Yeah.
That phrase, the get ripped or get jacked fast. So he has this 30-day program and he promises you he's going to get you jacked and ripped in 30 days. So to me, when I see these things, it's a little bit too good to be true. If it was that easy, most people would probably be, pretty ripped if that's all it took was, 30 days of a little bit of effort. And also I seen these same people kind of present these things like it's not going to be hard or challenging, or it's not going to require, long-term discipline and consistency, which of course it is going to, require all those things. All right, moving right on to point number 3. And this is one of my favorites. This is one of the things I look for when I'm going out to try to learn from someone. And a lot of times I find myself learning from people that have PhDs in, say, exercise science or nutritional sciences, something like that. I just find it fascinating learning about everything they've researched and how they present it. So the point number 3 here is they take very complex topics and they present them in very digestible ways. Now, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Dr. Eric Helms. He has his PhD in strength and conditioning, and he also is the chief scientific officer over at 3DMJ, and they do bodybuilding coaching, powerlifting coaching, and I believe nutrition coaching on top of that. So if you guys have not checked out Eric Helms, type his name on Instagram. His content is absolutely amazing. I've never seen someone present these very, very nuanced and hard to understand topics, anything in fitness from strength and conditioning to programming to biomechanics to programming considerations, and present it in a way that's easy to learn. And I've also noticed with people like him, people that can present these complex topics in digestible ways, it makes you feel smarter when you're listening to these people. That's my favorite thing. They make it so clear, it sticks in your brain, then you all of a sudden feel like you have a PhD in whatever they're talking about. So that is something that I definitely look for. Clay, did you have anything to add to that one? I saw you looking over here at me.
I was just mostly agreeing with you. A good coach is going to do these things. You're on it.
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't really have much to add right now, listeners. I'm just enjoying listening as much as you guys are.
And moving on to number 4, if they are selling you something, whether this is a product or service, it is clear what that is. It's not something that is ambiguous or something very popular. Now, this isn't just in the fitness industry. I've seen this a lot in the real estate industry, in other industries. They are trying to sell you some secret, and nothing makes sense. It seems like this big mystery as it's being presented to you.
Yeah.
You don't even know the service that they're presenting to you. It doesn't even make sense. And I don't know what it is, Clay, about when people say secret, when they say it over and over and just keep using, I have the secret to this.
Yeah.
That would make me not even want to work with that person. Like, how would this one random person out of all human beings be the only one that has this secret way to work out? And here's the thing, there is no secret. As we know, there's a few things that you have to do to improve in the gym, especially if you're looking to build strength or muscle. It's a few simple things like consistency. You need to sleep well, you need to eat well, get enough protein, and then utilize, progressive overload over time, like we've talked about on the show before. So that's not a secret. You can look that up online. You can read about any of those topics and also go way deeper into any of those topics. there's no secret. And these guys like, Dr. Eric Helms, like I was just talking about, people like him, they never present anything like a secret or ambiguous. It's very, very clear with what they are saying, what they are selling, if they are doing that, and what they are trying to serve or bring value to you. And I've also noticed too, I don't have this written down, but these same people that always try to sell secrets, it seems as though they are just trying to sell. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with people
Sure.
that, everyone has to make a living. People have their businesses online. That's completely fine. But when everything someone does is just sell, 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 no value, that would kind of turn me off a little bit from wanting to further look into, those people. The people that I've been referring to so far in the show, they offer so much free content and value. Sometimes I can't even comprehend how it's free. Like the amount of work that goes into doing that and the amount of things they give you, intangible things that you can take away and apply in your own life, how it's even free is beyond me. So I really, really look up to people that do that.
The subtext of secret is easy. That's really what the kind of, they say the ad says secret, but what it implies is that this is the easy way that's been kept secret from you, the viewer. And the reality is that there is no easy way. And any quality provider, that's one of the first things that they're going to tell you is that, they're not going to say, oh, there's no easy way, but they're going to say in language that shows the fact that you're going to have to be diligent and disciplined and grow and build. And this is outside of fitness. Even this could be general health. Right. But anyway, the secret, this again, remember when you see secret out there, the subtext is easy, and easy doesn't exist. Simple. It's very simple, but it's not, well, it can get nuanced and complex too, but generally it's very simple, not easy necessarily. Right. Never easy.
I mean, you made a fantastic point there. Think like losing body fat. The concept of doing that is very simple. It is very simple, but it is incredibly challenging for most people. Most people that are successful losing weight, they gain it all back, then some, over the course of the next couple of years. So you're completely right. Incredibly, incredibly simple, but probably even more challenging. But I never thought of it like that. I love that you said how it means easy when they're saying secret. And I never really thought or perceived it that way, but it's totally true. When they're saying secret, it's like, okay, all I have to do is sign up for their program.
Yep.
I do that. I give them my money. Then it's going to be easy from there. I never thought about that. That's pretty genius, though. Did you just think about that on top of your head right now?
I mean, yes, but at the same time, it's fairly, with this is this kind of stuff that we learned about doing learning psychology, right? So a lot of times it's not so much that I thought about it in this moment as much as, generally speaking, that's the status quo. And that's part of the reason why we exist as a podcast and as a company is because, or whatever you want to, organization, I think is the better, is because the status quo is fakeness,
Yeah.
So, the nice thing is that with technology and, just kind of the way culture has gone the last few, last decade and 2 decades is that like now everybody wants to see how the sausage is made. And so it's a really great opportunity to be, sausage makers and be able to share it with the world.
Did you guys learn in class or any of your psychology classes specifically about like the psychology of sales or like marketing? Yep. Did you learn about that too? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I mean, I would argue that it was the most pertinent component of the of my psychology undergrad degree because I don't know, that's tough because there's like the psychology of learning is really important too, but learning about persuasion and the different techniques that these learned companies use, these multi-million-dollar companies that are like they're billion-dollar companies that are putting multi-million dollars into this alone for marketing, right? So, it's once you learn about how messed up and wrong statistics and how they're used can be and have been historically, you're like, it makes you much more, jaded maybe, but definitely more with it, right?
Yeah.
Than the average bear, I suppose.
I read a little bit about the marketing. I think it was in The Power of Habit. I think it was in that book, and I couldn't believe like these little psychology, not psychology hacks, but you know what I'm trying to say, that
Mm-hmm.
goes into properly marketing things to people. Like I learned about how Febreze did. I learned how whatever company like made toothpaste back in the day.
Mm.
It's insane. These small little tweaks, it goes from a business that's about to fail to making millions of dollars to billions of dollars. It's insane to learn. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but the little I learned, it was fascinating. So
It's kind of like whether, if you're going into fitness and you don't know anything, like, yeah, you can go and you're going to work a lot and like probably not get great results, or you can go and you can learn from somebody who really knows what they're doing, or maybe even has a doctorate in that, you know what I mean? Or whatever, has studied it extensively, right? And then all
yeah.
of a sudden you're cooking with fire. You might be cooking with napalm, you know what I mean? Depending on
Yeah.
your
Well, that
situation.
speaking of that, that goes right into point number 5, and that is keep in mind someone's education, their credentials, and experience. That's all important. That's all great, but realize they can still make misleading claims. And I've
Mhm.
noticed this multiple times this week. I see this most with MDs, physicians. Make it seems as though they like to make a lot of claims about nutrition that are factually incorrect. That happens a lot. So do your best when you see MD before someone's name. That doesn't guarantee you what they're giving you is going to be legitimate stuff, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to strength and conditioning or nutrition. Physicians obviously have a wealth of information about the human body, especially anatomy and physiology, and anything that has to do with modern medicine, obviously. But that doesn't mean that they're specialists in these other areas. There are some
Yeah.
fantastic physicians. I do want to shout out. One of them was actually on the podcast from Barbell Medicine, and that is Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum. So people like that are amazing. They're like the cross between, they're a doctor, but they're also really into powerlifting or strength and conditioning.
Nice.
And, people like that are putting out great information. But I have seen a lot of MDs put out straight up false information about,
Yeah.
nutrition and other things like that. I don't know what it is about nutrition. I don't know if it's because every single human being on earth eats. They think they know everything there is to about food and nutrition, but for some reason that's the one that I do see a lot of MDs, putting out false information about. So yeah, so just keep that in mind. Credentials, education, experience, all that's fantastic, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to put out legitimate information.
I
Now
would also
moving.
say,
Oh, go
generally
ahead.
speaking, try to get your information from the organization sources. So, like, reputable, like, no, like PubMed. You know that anything that you're getting from PubMed is peer reviewed. Okay, probably anything that you're going to get on Healthline, not probably anything you're going to get on Healthline is based on peer reviewed information. So, I'm not going to go off and name all the reputable sources, but, start to learn the difference between the person and the reputable source, because the organization is held to a different standard than that person on social media. So, not to say that you can't get tons of great information from really great sources, like I forget the name of the person that you just said, Jake.
Oh, Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum.
Thank you. So, like Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum, absorb that information, make it, utilize it, but know that generally speaking, you're gonna try to get most of your information from, like, Healthline and whatever, PubMed, if you have the acumen. Not like it takes a whole lot of acumen, but not everybody like wants to get into a PubMed article either. So, idea is try to get your information not only from reputable people, but from reputable sources, like
Yeah, and
online.
it's really cool. Like Clayton was talking about PubMed. So you'll see some people online, they'll post some fitness fact or nutrition fact, and then followed by, it will say PMID, and then it will have a number. So that's essentially the researcher study number, if I'm not mistaken. So you can type that in onto Google and take you right to the study that they're sourcing right there. So just a fun little fact. Another thing, though, you do have to be careful because some people will cite a bunch of PubMed studies, or studies,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, that are on PubMed, but they aren't actually related to what they're talking about.
Oh,
So
perfect.
that's pretty rough.
Super
Someone I saw
reliable.
recently kind of got caught and called out, and this person had, a following of over 1 million people. So I
No.
just was like, dang it, like, this person cited all these sources for what they said. It had to do with exercise. And then, some people knew better and looked up all these things that they were citing, and some of them even contradicted what he had said in his post. But that's a whole nother story. So,
Oh man.
and moving on to number 6, when they present anecdotes or personal experience, it's not presented as science or fact. Now, I am 100% for using your own anecdote as your own quote unquote science for yourself. What you have to be careful of is when people use that anecdote and they share it as fact. There's a huge difference. Now, let me just give you a personal example of mine that I would say is, personal anecdote, but I wouldn't share it and tell people this is scientific fact. Now, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the podcast or not. I have chronic migraines, and I would get them all the time, and I would throw up and I'd be sick for, a couple days and lose my vision. For all of you that get migraines, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me what was going on. I was getting them for years. Sometimes I had migraines that lasted 60 days in a row, just throwing up nonstop, just craziness, right? And then finally one day, my coworker, this is when I was still working for the fire department, she had told me a story about her brother in high school, how he stopped drinking coffee and he stopped getting migraines. So I was like, that's really interesting because in migraine medication, there's caffeine, just like in coffee.
Mm.
So it seemed very counterintuitive. So what I did, I just decided to see if it would work. I actually didn't completely cut out coffee. I just stopped drinking afternoon coffee and only drank my, 1 cup in the morning. I was just like, why not? Let me just see if this has any truth to it. I did that and I didn't get a migraine for over a year. I went a whole year without one, which was the most
Wow.
amazing thing in the world. So, anyways, point being, I know for me, I know that is fact. For me, when I have too much caffeine, it causes migraines, or at least there's some correlation. But I don't know of any literature that supports that. So if I'm sharing that with you, whether it's on the podcast, on a post, I'm not going to state it as fact. There's no problem when people share their anecdote, but just make sure it's not fact, because I do see people do that a lot. Of course, on social media, that's kind of the place
Mm.
where that happens. So,
I'd say
movement.
a good source would be somebody who kind of gives you a little bit of that general information, and then also if they have it, kind of gives you that personal experience as illustration of that larger point, right?
Exactly. Love it. And moving on, where we number 7, this is actually a big one. They don't have the answer to everything. So the experts, or the leading people in the entire world with their respected subjects, you will see them when people ask them certain questions, they'll say, I don't know, and then refer them to someone else. That is huge in my mind, because if you are an expert at whatever it is, say that's, like Dr. Brad Schoenfeld with muscle hypertrophy. He's the leading researcher in the world with muscle building or muscle hypertrophy. If someone is that versed and that much of an expert in their field, that alone says they can't be experts in other fields,
Mm-hmm.
because they have put so much time into learning and committing to their craft and to their respective topics. Now, they may know a ton about other stuff, but they definitely wouldn't be considered experts in, 5, 6 different fields. So I was really impressed. I saw this the other day. I've been learning a lot recently. I don't know if I've told you this, from physios and physical therapists. I feel like they
Mm-hmm.
just understand kinesiology and the human
Yeah,
body and movement and corrective exercise. I feel they're fascinating to learn from. And I feel that's the personal trainers should really learn from.
oh
That's
my
just my
god,
opinion.
yeah,
I think they're awesome.
I agree
Um,
100%,
yeah.
110. And,
And
and
I
and I would even say that there should be, and you find this naturally occurring, but there should be an existing tandem relationship for all trainers and physical therapists, because you're
Yep.
talking about two sides of the same coin. A physical therapist is going to help somebody recover from being injured, and the trainer is going to be your, your wartime, your normal time, so your when you're a healthy, person. So
Yeah, and they just understand so much how the human body works and moves, and especially if they, do resistance training themselves or they're an athlete, because you see that sometimes. They just have such a deep understanding. So I really recommend, I mean, you don't have to be a personal trainer to do this, but if
yeah.
you want to understand movement and how to improve it, it doesn't even necessarily mean just, if you're injured, go find a, really good PT or physio. I really like Squat University. You can find that on Instagram. Dr. Aaron Horschig. He's supposed to be on our podcast in the future. He had to
Cool.
reschedule a couple times, but he has a massive following, and for good reason. Like, he puts out high quality information. Again, you kind of question, how does he even put all this out for free? Like, he
Mm.
takes you through assessments that he does with patients. He shows you before and afters and how to improve. So, anyways, I'm digressing a little bit here, but back to the point. I saw another physio. Someone asked them a question on their page, and it had to do with nutrition. And all she said was, "Oh, that is out of my scope."
Yeah.
That's all she said. And I was like, dang.
Yeah.
I was so impressed, because I was like, I bet she actually probably knows a little bit about nutrition, because,
Yeah.
those fields, like, they overlap a little bit, just
Sure.
like a lot of trainers, have at least a little bit of knowledge about
Yeah. It's a Venn
nutrition.
diagram.
Exactly. So she said, that's, I'm not an expert in that. That's out of my scope, and left it at that. So that
Love it.
tells me that someone respects, I don't want to say staying in your own lane, like you can't learn from other people or anything like that, but it shows the professionalism when someone, says, oh, that's not really my, cup of tea, that's not my wheelhouse or whatever, and either leave it at that or they refer you to someone else. I think that's fantastic when people do that.
Yep.
So,
Agree 100%.
Clayton, you're going to love this one. I know you are. Both of us love this one. And this is number 8. They speak in nuance. So you hear them when someone asks them a question, they'll start with, it depends, followed by their answer. And the reason I like this, because so many times in fitness, people create these false dichotomies. Like, for example, you have to only train for strength or only build muscle. You can't do both at the same time, or there's no spectrum, or those don't overlap, or a Venn diagram, like you said, Clay, a second ago, when that's completely not true. Now, going back to Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, I know I just mentioned him a second ago. So people ask him questions all the time. A common one that I see that he gets is people say, oh, can you work out fasted and still build muscle? So a lot of people, it's very easy to be black and white and just say yes or no. But to be honest, both of those answers, those aren't thorough, and
Right.
they definitely require, a more thought out response than that involves nuance. So it depends. And I learned this from him specifically, and I love the way he put it with that question: can you build muscle if you are fasted? And what he said was, yes, you still can. It's not optimal. You still can do it, but make sure, you do get a meal somewhat after you are done working out. It's a smart thing to do. Because, they always talk about the anabolic window, and you're supposed to get, your protein shake
Mm.
and carbs right after your workout. And we've learned that's not exactly true, at least to the extent that we thought. So basically, the point that he was saying, the time where it is very important to get a meal in as soon as you can is if you train fasted. So I just love when I hear experts in their field say it depends, show that there's nuance, and show that it's not just this black and white type of thinking, which I think is a great thing. If building muscle or building strength was black and white, I think a lot of people would struggle to do so. If it was just black and white, you'd either be doing it correctly or incorrectly, but there's a spectrum. So definitely look out for that. People that really know what they're talking about, they speak in nuance, and not just black and white and false dichotomies.
I would say
And
if someone says, like, specifically is offering something and is uninterested in nuance, you know I know we're not focusing on red flags, but red flag.
I know. I kept saying earlier we're not going to do red flags,
Yeah.
and then I said like 3 red flag things since we started. Hey,
They're
but
cheerful red
everyone gets the
flags.
point.
We've got
I know,
smiles on our
seriously.
faces as we're saying red flag.
It's a positive red flag, okay? It's a
Yeah.
positive red flag. Yeah, and where are we? Number 9, and this is over time, their mind changes about topics. Ooh,
Yeah, I
that's
love
controversial to
this.
say, huh? I've seen this
Perfect.
too. People will go back 5 or 10 years on someone's profile. They'll see something they said, and it might not match up with what they say now. I think if you are a true practitioner or you're someone that wants to become an expert in your craft and you spend hours and hours and hours and give your life to whatever that is, you better change your mind about something. If you
Yeah.
don't, I don't feel like you're really learning or
Nope.
putting the time in to get better.
Yeah.
And, it hurts a little bit. It bruises our ego if
Yeah.
we thought a certain way for so long and then we see maybe just months ago what we were thinking maybe was not so right. And Lane Norton is a great example. I've brought him up multiple times on the show. He's, I would say, one of the leading researchers as far as nutrition and nutritional sciences. Someone asked him like if he's ever changed his mind about something. He said absolutely, and he mentioned I think it was he used to think to the optimal way to build muscles, you had to eat at least 6 meals a day, and then over the course of time we learn that's definitely not needed to build muscle, and you can still optimize muscle building even if you don't eat 6 times a day. So that was just an example that he gave, and I think that shows someone is truly a lifelong learner and wants to improve in their craft, for the long term when they do change their mind. Now, could it be a problem if every time they said something, the next day it changes, and the next day that changes?
Yeah.
That might be a different issue,
Sure.
but I think over time, as you understand the depth of a topic more, it would be very hard not to change your mind at least a little bit. I feel like as we're learning certain things in fitness, whatever the topic is, it's like an onion and you're just peeling the layers
Yep.
back a little bit as you're starting to understand whatever it is that you're learning about. So that one's big. Shout out to Dr. Lane Norton for that.
A
We're
lot
going to
of
have him
this
on the show too.
a lot of this work is in its nature counterintuitive. So a lot of what happens both in research and with personal growth is, especially in this field, is you learn that a lot of times the opposite of what we held to be true is true. And even then, sometimes that changes again, right? The perfect example is how we feel about fat as a culture and as not going to go down that route, but we all know how that's gone over the years, right? So, you know, like Jake's saying, there is a natural sloughing of
I
bad
love that word.
information, right? We try to we get rid of it, and believe us, for those of us who are in positions of authority, like you especially those of us who have egos that are too big, you get into this place where you're like, oh, like you get used to being feeling like you're right, and it hurts when you're wrong. But a good provider is going to be able to balance that.
Absolutely. And moving on to number 10. Okay, guys, I know I keep saying I'm not going to be negative. I'm going to say this in a positive way. So don't take it in a negative way. It's positive, I promise, okay? And that is the biggest way they bring value is through information, not just doing things to inflate their own ego. And my example, said it earlier, is the IG fitness influencers who just take pictures of their abs all day and there's nothing else. Someone, could debate me saying that does bring value to certain people. That's a fair argument. I'm just saying most people, especially the ones that know what they're talking about, they try to bring you value through good information and not just doing things to make themselves look better, which in my head, I would equate that to someone who all they do is take pictures of themselves and just try to sell you products. But again, I could see someone arguing against that. That was just my own personal opinion. So that was number 10. Clay, did you want to hit the last one?
Yeah, but I did want to add to that. We do always want to ask, what are we selling? What is everybody selling something, right? Even here, we're not literally selling anything, but we want to succeed. We want to grow our own personal development. It's not like we are devoid of motivation. So always ask what's somebody's motivation, right? And, if they're taking pictures of themselves all day, they're selling their sex, not giving you information, was the point of that. And then my last little piece is just, it's a little more specific to kind of coaches and trainers. But if you're seeking out a fitness professional, make sure a good fitness professional is going to be asking you questions when you meet over telling you how it is. So when you actually meet with them and, you're talking to a trainer, a nutrition coach, and I know I just said that twice because that's all I can think of right at this particular moment. But I would even argue probably physios and PTs, although I can't speak to that because that's out of my scope. Tagline from earlier. The idea being that a good provider is going to, their first job is to get to know you, because they can't give you the most pertinent information until they learn about you, even just a little bit. It doesn't take tons. You know what I mean? Like, a good provider will probably give you some workable information within the first 10 minutes of meeting them, but it's going to be probably 10 minutes of them asking you questions before you get that value, right? So it's important to remember that if you feel like somebody's talking at you, talking down to you, and it's not to demonize these people, but, that might not be the best, most experienced person for you to go with. And, maybe that person will learn how to better do that. But the idea being is you want to be working with somebody who wants to work with you, not work on you.
I love that. So what you're saying is probably not having cookie cutter information for people and actually get to know them and ask questions. I love that. Great point. So let's go through those 11 real quick as we wrap up here one more time. So number 1, they present information without exaggerating. Number 2, nothing seems too good to be true. Number 3, they take complex topics and present them in digestible ways. Number 4, if they're selling you a product or service, it is clear, it is not ambiguous, and is not a mystery. Number 5, keep in mind someone's education, credentials, and experience, but realize they can still make misleading claims. Number 6, when they present anecdote, it is presented as such and not as science or fact. Number 7, they don't have the answer to everything. Number 8, they speak in nuance. Number 9, over time, they do change their mind about things. Number 10, the biggest value they bring is through information and not just inflating their own ego. And number 11, as Clayton just put, asking you questions and actually getting to know you and it not being about them. All right, everyone, we hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show. If you scroll down there, if you are listening from your phone, you can see a place to give us a quick review. And if we did bring you value today, we hope you do that. It will help grow the show tremendously. You can find us on Instagram at Mission Driven Made. Also, you can reach out to us via the forum. It's a free online fitness community and platform. If you go to Facebook and type in Mission Driven Made, the forum, you can find us there. And I think I just mentioned it, but it is free. It's a place you can go to converse with other listeners of the podcast. And it's also a place to go where you can ask Clayton or I questions, anything from fitness, mindset, lifestyle, whatever it is, we are there to answer your questions. All right, everyone, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your Friday. And until next time, stay mission driven.
All right, Twitch viewers, if you stuck around for the post-show dance party, you'll know that we are doing our live Q&A. So if you are out there, you have any questions, now's a great time to ask a couple of trainers a question. We're both certified trainers, certified nutrition coaches. You're certified Olympic? What's the
Olympic
other one?
lifting coach.
Certified Olympic lifting. Which when we get together, I would love for you to coach. Maybe we can do for one of our videos. Maybe you can coach me and Andrew, maybe both if you're interested, Andrew, on some proper deadlift stuff. I've been working on my form and I realized it was sloppier than it was. which I realize Twitch viewers who haven't said anything, if you have anything to say, now's the time, because we're about to log off, because this is just me talking to Jake. But
recording stopped.
I think that would be a lot of fun. You know what I mean? And I would know I would learn something from it.
Dude, the Olympic, that course, I loved that course. It was, I think, just a 2-day course.
Nice.
It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Even if you
Pretty quick.
don't think you'll use Olympic lifts with like a lot of clients, dude, if you can, go through that course. They were so fantastic. The only thing for me personally though is I had